Yeah.
All right, 7 o'clock, call the meeting to order and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll start with a roll call.
Osborne,
Here.
Lund,
Here.
Euler,
Here.
Bentley.
Here. All right, approval of the city council minutes. Move to approve. Sorry.
Osborne,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Euler,
Yes.
Bentley.
Yes. And then approval of city council minutes for the work session on August 15th.
Move to approve.
Osborne,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Euler,
Yes.
and Bentley.
Yes. Adoption of agenda.
Move to approve.
Osborne,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Euler,
Yes.
and Bentley.
Yes. All right, item 5, we're gonna have a presentation from the Diversity and Inclusion Commission. We have Erica Collins and Susie Latari.
Hello. Hi, I'm going to just kick things off and then send it over to Erica. So I'm a member of the Diversity and Inclusion Commission and happy to be here tonight. Thanks for letting us talk for just a bit. Wanted to introduce the other member who is here currently tonight, Atsuki Mori. Back there. Thank you very much. Hello, Atsuki. Our other members are Dr. Camille Guzzi with the university, Pastor Jepson, Heather Jepson with First United Presbyterian, Dorothy Arvizu, and Barbara Mayfield, who is our vice chair. We do, per the ordinance, have some ex officio members, and we are in the process of getting Kennethia Berry as a rep from Warrensburg, from Whiteman Air Force Base to turn in her application as the ex officio from Whiteman. We do currently have 2 positions open under the ex officio. One that we have held in the past for a high school student and one for a university student. So we are actively looking for those members. So if you're anyone who's listening has a student either at the high school or at the university who might be interested, we would love to see those applications. And those, of course, go through the same application process that are on the website. Happy to send that to anybody. Also, our other ex officio is Doug Christie, who is retired from the Army. And I think that's my bit. I'm going to turn it over to Erica. Thank you.
Thank you.
Council, Mayor Pro Tem, thank you again for allowing us to be here. Just wanted to give an update and hopefully we'll be able to meet with you all quarterly, kind of let you know what we're doing and what's going on with the Diversity Inclusion Commission. The first thing that we'd like to do is welcome and thank Chief Musterman. He is our city liaison for the Diversity Inclusion Commission. He came in very excited and passionate and knowledgeable and has some good thoughts and ideas. And it's just been a joy already to work with him. So the commission most certainly welcomes him. So welcome, Chief. Glad to have you. One of the things that the commission is very astute to do is follow our state legislation. We pay attention to the bills that are being presented and passed and seeing how we fit in with that, and how they align with us. And obviously, we know that you all are paying attention as well, but wanting to ensure that we are aware of those things as they float down to us on a local level, and that we are promoting those things within the commission. And so there's nothing grand to note. As one of our statutes as a commission is that we would then, if we saw something, to bring that to your attention, but we don't have anything to note at this time. one of the things that we are also charged with is to promote other groups and ideas and activities in our community that support diversity and inclusion. We will be at Get the Red Out. That's something that we look forward to doing every year. So please stop by our booth, say hi to us. We'll be out there. One of the things that we have done in the past and we'll do again this year is we have a fun game that has questions that have to do with diversity and inclusion. And so we invite everybody to stop by and see us grab some swag on your way by. There are a couple of projects that the commission is working on. One of the big projects that we wanted to promote was an ethnic festival. Then COVID hit. So we had to put that on the back burner for a little bit, like many groups have done with several things. And so we will be taking a look at that again and seeing if we can bring that forward in our community. Want to start it off on a small scale, and then we'll expand out as we get more experience with doing that. But looking forward to partnering with the university and with our local school district to do that. The school district had been in contact with us about doing a multicultural night. It's something that they in the past had done very frequently. It was very successful. They hadn't done it in several years as a person who was over that moved out of state. And so they're looking forward to ramping that up, and we're very excited about joining them in that effort. We have the privilege of having Marcy from the Visitors Bureau visit with us about a Juneteenth grant that is being promoted by the state. Unfortunately, we don't meet the criteria this year. You had to have already had your own celebration for 3 years before you could apply for that grant, but that's okay. We are not deterred. We are very much looking forward to doing a Juneteenth celebration in 2023. And so in late fall, early winter, we'll be putting together a committee to get that underway. We have some really good ideas already and very excited about promoting that. Additionally, we did have the opportunity still to work with the Visitors Bureau on promotion and marketing, and they do have a grant that we do intend to apply for that's local to help with that. Currently, we're working on a couple of local businesses on some materials that we'll be using at upcoming events. Table skirting, we got that printed at Laser Quicks. We're really grateful for our community partnerships and being able to support those local businesses. And also working with PhotoGen. So we're very excited about a project that we're doing with them. And hopefully we'll be able to unveil that project as it is completed. So we'll keep you up to date on that. Coming up, we'll be partnering with UCM. They are bringing in Dr. Cristobal Salinas, who will be doing a presentation for Latinx on Latinx culture. And he will be working with students on campus. But that same day, we have invited him, and he is so graciously agreed to do a community session where he'll do a presentation, and then there'll be time for question and answer. So that's on September the 19th. That's on a Monday. And we cordially invite council to join us on that evening. There will be a reception. A formal invite will come out to you all with all the details on that, but save the date. We would love to see all of you there. So that's about all that I have. Does anybody have any questions?
So, do you guys have contact information? So if public wants to kind of volunteer, how to reach out to you and
To volunteer for.
your activities or participate in?
We will post those things on the website as they come available.
Okay.
And so most certainly, we don't want to leave out Chairman Pro Tem Bentley, who is our council liaison, who provides, great assistance and good energy to us as well. So thank you, council. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. All right, item 6 is a public hearing, setting property tax levy for.
I'm sorry. 5.1. The budget cover.
Oh, sorry about that. 5.1 or 5.2.
5.2.
Fiscal year 2023 budget cover, presentation of the city of Warrensburg budget cover photo contest winner.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The budget cover is something we promote every year. this year we had a number of photos to pick from. The Arts Commission went through and reviewed over 60 photos that were presented by 4 or 5 different contestants, which was really enticing and exciting to see all of those. And we'll try to incorporate, several of those photos throughout the budget document. So the Arts Commission went through and selected 4 of the top. We recognize the top 3 contestants. And so Twanda Moore presented the kids on the log. You saw that picture in the presentation last week at work session. It's included in your packet. Mindy Williams did Lions Lake Sunset. Lions Lake is always a real popular photo op. We get usually a contestant will provide several photos of Lions Lake. So that's a good spot that everybody likes to take pictures. And this year, Michael Toller has presented a number of pictures, and his Pearl Springs fall bench just captured the fall colors in that bench out to Pearl Springs really, really nicely. So we'll have just a simple gift basket for Miss Moore later on this week to give to her after, but it was just nice to see all of those pictures, and congratulations and thank you for all the participation, in submitting those photos, and look forward to them every year.
Thank you. All right, now 6.1. Public hearing setting property tax levy for 2022. A public hearing on the ordinance fixing the annual rate of levy for property taxes by the city of Warrensburg for a general revenue fund, park fund, and debt services proposed for the 2022 and levying said taxes. Presented by Marcella.
Good evening. And so every year, the state auditor's office presents a pro forma worksheet, which you have available in the packet of the calculations for the debt service levy. It's based on the assessed values that are provided by the county, and those calculations are figured every year. And in years of reassessment, which is the odd years, it may cause us to roll our levies back. Fortunately, this was not a reassessment year. However, one of the things that the state also does is they cap the consumer price index at 5%. So we're also not allowed to generate more revenue than what that 5% would increase, unlike the current CPI, which the last time I checked was like 8.6. And so these calculations are provided by the state and given to us. We'll do this public hearing and pass these ordinances. Respectfully ask that you waive the rules and consider them on first reading to allow us to present them to the county clerk's office prior to September 1st, so that she can turn them around, certify them back to the state auditor's office for certification for that to be entered into the levy books as of the 1st of November. The revenue differences are outlined in the public notices. It doesn't generate a whole lot more revenue this year, but there is some money there, and the levies do not change. The calculation for the debt service levy come out about a penny more than what it will be. We will roll that back to the 59 cents as promised to the voters. And so that is what is presented to you this evening. Take any questions, comments?
Anybody have any questions? Okay. And then 6.2 is a, yeah, that's what.
Thank you.
Hey, Norm Lucas.
I'm just here to answer questions when my agenda item comes up.
All right, thank you. All right. Okay, 6.2 is a public hearing for the general budget comments.
Barry, were you able to find that presentation? Good evening once again. You need to listen to me a lot tonight. So presented to you this evening is the fiscal year 23 proposed budget. Again, this displays the award-winning photo that we had selected with the kids on the log out to the Children's Memorial Park, which is really a fun park and a great space that is cared for in our cemetery location. So as we talked a little bit last week in work session, the overall budget is adopted at a deficit with the use of $17 million of GEO bond proceeds and over $1.2 million in American Rescue Plan proceeds. Those monies are available to us. They're sitting and ready to be expended as projects are identified. It also includes a $1.3 million deficit in the Water Pollution Control Fund, which is primarily the $1.5 million in depreciation that's budgeted. The remaining are from general fund. We talked about one-time items for general fund and the capital transportation to spend down monies that are available in transportation as well. So the general fund proposed budget has revenues, or actually the entire budgets have revenues and compared to expenditures outlined here. We start out with general fund and run through, we'll do a recap of the transportation fund, the half-cent sales tax, the American Rescue Plan, the GEO bonds, the NID and TIF funds. We'll do a brief presentation on parks and WPC for water pollution control, and the trust and art funds and the self-insurance fund. So to start out with general fund, revenues are generated with sales taxes and property taxes. As you can see there, the sales tax is the majority piece for sales and use taxes as the main revenue stream. And that's where Warrensburg is heavily dependent on our economy going forward for a total of $11.4 million in revenue generation projected. The divisions for general fund include the nearly 50% in public safety, which is your fire, EMS, or actually emergency services and police. The community development, public works. The debt service is only the $152,000, which is the street sweeper lease payment, as well as a transfer to the neighborhood improvement district for that debt payment. Administration includes all of your legislation, court pieces, finance, IT, those divisions that do the overall administration for general fund. The individual functions show salary and benefits as the majority of that at over 65% of that general fund budget of $11 million to be salaries and benefits. The remaining is supplies and utilities. Insurance is a big piece of that with services. The maintenance and capital items and the transfers and the community agreements that we have with our community partners. As we go on, community investment, transportation. Again, this is heavy on the sales taxes for the fuel tax that we receive. And then you also have the vehicle fees associated that with some interest earnings. So that collects just under or right at $800 and some odd thousand. Those services include the capital administration. The majority of that is street infrastructure. That's what the transportation fund is to pay for. That's very specific outlined in state statute for that gasoline and vehicle sales taxes it's to go towards our infrastructure for our street maintenance. The half-cent sales tax. Recall that the half-cent sales tax is set to expire in December of 25. It currently is projected to generate nearly $2.1 million in sales tax and over $200,000 in use tax. The use tax, we don't anticipate to go up a whole lot. And I didn't mention this in general fund, but it will go up some with the Wayfair bill that goes into effect in January of 23. The projections that the Municipal League has given us doesn't show much of an increase because Warrensburg has collected that money for a period of time. But we will see some of that, and I'm kind of anxious to see how close their projections are on those. And we've noticed in 22, the use tax numbers have gone back down, so they spiked during the pandemic peak. And so as everybody has gotten back out and is shopping locally and in brick and mortar stores, then that use tax number has dwindled throughout fiscal year 22. The half-cent sales tax majority of that is used for the debt service payment. And that debt service is extended out until 2029. There's also monies for capital improvements. We have slated to purchase police vehicles and fire vehicles along with community development vehicle in that fund as well. So the community investment plan for the general obligation bond I mentioned earlier is a majority of our deficit budget is because that $17 million is sitting for us to use. And as we slate projects and enter into contracts to use that will come to the board individually with those projects going forward to do as we promised to the voters, that we'll make improvements to McGuire Street and other much needed street improvement programs. The revenue that's generated with the general obligation bonds is from the 59-cent tax levy, and that revenue generates enough money to cover the debt service payment, which is scheduled at $1.1 million for 2023. The American Rescue Plan is the other thing that I mentioned. It has interest earnings. That money is sitting in the bank, and we've also got it invested to earn at least 2% or more money. And so the obligation that we have right now committed to for the American Rescue Plan is the $1.2 million for the radio upgrade for public safety going forward. Again, like the GEO bonds, as we identify further projects and expend that money, that will come forward to you individually to be authorized going forward. And remember that money has to be committed to by December of 2024 and actually has to be completely expended by 2026. The Neighborhood Improvement District it collects revenue for special assessments for that district up in the Hawthorne area. And it is scheduled, has a debt service payment on it as well. So there's the transfer from general fund to cover that debt service payment. So the special assessments generate about $60,000 a year, and the other $100,000 that's needed to make that debt service payment comes from general fund. And that's the only expenditures that are done in the Neighborhood Improvement District. The tax increment financing funds also does the same thing. There's the property tax that is collected in the TIF district, along with the sales tax, economic activity taxes. So it's sales taxes, franchise taxes, etc., that's collected in that Keystone TIF district by those businesses. And those monies are collected and then paid back to the developer based on the development agreement for the TIF district. The park fund has a little over $3.2 million in revenue projected. It has property taxes that generates about 14% of its revenue, and it again is heavy on sales taxes as well. And so the program services fees for all the programs and the community center services are presented in the park fund. And those expenditures include general administration, maintenance of all of our parks divisions and our public parks, the recreation programs that are administered along with the community center upkeep. And they currently have a debt service payment of a little over $300,000 that will accelerate going forward. Water pollution control. Last week I talked about the fact that water pollution control will come forward with a rate review analysis, and that will give us some better numbers about how to project any changes that will be made in the beginning of 2023 with that rate analysis. So these numbers are the numbers that were presented to you last year as well as this year. We didn't make any changes to them to speak of. There's some minor changes for debt and salary expenses to them. But that's one of the things that we'll look at, and we'll do a complete presentation of what those expenses are. So they outline capital, what our operations are, and what the revenue projections are needed in any rate increases that will come forward. So again, you'll have more information about that in the next 30 days as the consultant finishes up that rate analysis going forward. The trust and art funds and the self-insurance fund. So trust and art, so there's several funds that were enlisted with us that people gave us to use going forward. Some of it includes the Children's Memorial Fund, which they have a huge fundraiser every year, which does the park, which is one of our pictures that we talked about tonight. The Arts Commission gets money, and as there is actual a raised structure that is constructed by the city with how the Arts Fund is funded, as well as any fundraisers that they may do, or if they have a participation type program where they would collect some sort of an admission, then the Arts Commission would get that. Those trust funds are used for, like, for example, the Stevenson Fund is used to present for the Teachers Warehouse and the Christmas store. Those funds can be requested and used for that basis. The interest earnings, there's a piece of that is to go over into that principal balance, if you will, to keep that investment earnings coming forward so that we can expend that money going as those needs come about. Remember also with the Children's Memorial Fund that we recently adopted a grant opportunity. So with Children's Memorial, you can come forward if we have a loss of a child, then the Memorial Fund can grant the family monies to help with those expenses associated with burial of the child. The self-insurance fund, this is the same as the fiscal year 22 adopted budget because we're in the middle of looking at health insurance premiums and review of what has been presented. So in the operations budgets, it's got a 20%, 27% increase projected in the expenses, for the city's portion of the employees' health insurances is what's included on the operations side for general fund, parks, and WPC for water pollution control. And so as the administration looks through those and reviews that and does that complete analysis, that again will come forward to council as a adoption of the program and any changes that will be made and implemented at that point in time. Again, and that will happen probably in the next 60 days. I don't know that we'll have it by the end of September, but by the 1st of October for those changes to go into effect January 1. So that's a lot in a really short period of time. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Council have any questions?
Yeah, I just have a quick question on the water pollution control. It has services over there, and then the other income, what would the other income be?
The other income would be like interest earnings, or there's also some fees, like permit fees and different things that are associated with water pollution control.
Thank you. Public. All right, so we'll close the public hearing on that. Item 7.1, first reading of fiscal year 2022-23 budget ordinance. An ordinance adopting the annual operating budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1st for the city of Warrensburg, Missouri. Presented by Marcella.
We just went through that piece, and so this is first reading. So that you can have a chance to digest those numbers that were presented to you. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have going forward.
questions? Item 8.1 is a first and second reading of an ordinance, first and second reading, setting the 2022 property tax levy for general fund. An ordinance fixing the annual rate of the levy for taxes by the city of Warrensburg, county of Johnson, Missouri for the general revenue fund proposed purposes for the 2022 and levying said taxes. Presented by Marcella.
So the general fund levy is set to at 0.3549 cents per $100 of assessed value to generate approximately, wrong form, sorry. $867,000 for general fund.
Thank you. Can I get a motion on the ordinance?
Move to pass said ordinance to second reading by title.
An ordinance fixing the annual rate of levy for taxes by the city of Warrensburg, county of Johnson, Missouri for general revenue fund purposes for the year 2022 and levying said taxes. This is for adoption or rejection.
Gotta vote on your motion to pass it to second reading.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Osborne,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Euler,
Yes.
Bentley.
Yes.
Thank you. We'll go again. An ordinance fixing the annual rate of levy for taxes by the city of Warrensburg, county of Johnson, Missouri for general fund revenue purposes for the year 2022 and levying said taxes. This is for adoption or rejection. Osborne,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Euler,
Yes.
Bentley.
Yes. All right. 8.2, first and second reading, setting the 2022 property tax levy for park fund. Presented by Marcella.
Good evening. So the park fund is levy is scheduled at 0.1928 per $100 of assessed value. And it is slated to generate $471,000.
Can I get a motion?
I'm not sure of the verbiage, so I'm going to refrain.
I'll go here.
Go for it.
Move to pass that ordinance to second reading by title.
Osborne,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Euler,
Yes.
Bentley.
Yes.
An ordinance fixing the annual rate of levy for taxes by the city of Warrensburg, county of Johnson, Missouri for park fund purposes for the year 2022 and levying said taxes. This is for adoption or rejection. Osborne,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Euler,
Yes.
Bentley.
Yes. All right, 8.3, first and second reading, setting the 2022 property tax levy for debt services, presented by Marcella.
Good evening again. The debt service levy is set at 0.59 cents of, it's 59 cents, sorry, of for $100 assessed to value, and it will generate a little over $1.1 million to meet the debt service payment for the year.
Thank you.
Move to pass said ordinance to second reading by title.
Osborne,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Euler,
Yes.
Bentley.
Yes.
An ordinance fixing the annual rate of levy for taxes by the city of Warrensburg, county of Johnson, Missouri for debt service purposes for the year 2022 and levying said taxes. This is for adoption or rejection. Osborne,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Euler,
Yes.
Bentley.
Yes. All right, 8.4, first and second reading of an ordinance amending certain provisions of Article 8, Chapter 20, right-of-way management, presented by Enrico Vargas.
So good evening, Chairman Pro Tem and Council. So tonight before you for consideration on adopt on first and second reading is our right-of-way management code amendments. And due to the substantial nature of the provisional changes, I plan on going kind of line item by line item to at least give you all some legislative intent behind these changes. And so I will save 1 and 3 for last, but I'll start with section 2, which establishes a reasonable time frame for permit review and subsequent approval. And so under our current code, a contractor could apply for a permit or 30 permits in 1 day and then expect that turnaround the next day. And so this at least gives us a way to pump the brakes, to give it a thorough review. Because one of the things that came out in our utility coordination meeting is that contractors have been working all over each other. And with that, while we're going through the review, we can make that determination of there are several contractors there, let's hold off, wait for some to finish their work or whatever. And so that time frame is necessary. And several have also understood that as well. And some even have suggested that. So I do appreciate everyone's involvement in that. I'm jumping to section 4, which is more punitive in nature. So this will give us the authority to issue fines for any violations of our code of an amount not to exceed $500 per offense, and then it would be subsequently per day, depending on whether they correct the behavior or not. So that's basically what that's saying. Section 5 is establishing a reasonable time frame for the contractor or right-of-way user to work, which is 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And I do want to make it clear here that if a contractor is just buttoning up the job site, securing it, erecting safety fencing, or doing some light backfilling or seeding, then they would not be in violation of this provision. But if they're pursuing with horizontal directional drilling or excavation or installing other facilities, then that would be construed as a violation of this provision, assuming that it would be after 7 p.m. or working before 7 a.m. And we have, again, in that utility coordination meeting, we even talked about that timeline even before that meeting. And so several have understood that it is good to be neighborly and to not work past those hours. Section 6 outlines several conditions that should be followed. The expectation would be that for any work that exceeds 2,500 linear feet in length would require a pre-construction meeting with city staff. In addition to what form of public notification that they would do. This provision does not specify a form, so they could use a yard dart, a door hanger, perhaps in a public neighborhood meeting, but they would need to do something. And I would like to add that the city also plans on doing significant public engagement on our capital improvement projects. And so we'd be treating ourselves just the same as well. At any rate, that's what section 6 is stating. And so I will go back to sections 1 and 3, as that is probably the biggest punitive mechanism that we've added. So in here, it would give the city the right to debar a contractor from working in the city's right of way for a period not to exceed 10 years. And so while that might sound substantial, that does complement our existing provisions within our code in that we need to give the contractor a reasonable time to cure the problem. And so such as issuing a cease and desist order, taking in their safety plan. If we are good with their safety plan, we lift the order. If the contractor does something again, then that's where probably this provision could kick in. I would probably envision this seeing out as like a 3 strikes policy, perhaps. But this does give us the punitive mechanism to debar the contractor. Now, that does not limit a utility company or what have you to fire the contractor and then just kind of get rid of the problem. But at least that gives us something at our disposal to act. So that's it for tonight. I can stand for any questions. Again, I did think it would be helpful to provide that intent for those that are listening in person or online.
I appreciate you doing this because we've had a lot of questions, of course, from residents about this. Section 6, is that Monday through Friday, or do we state that as far as the 7 to 7?
We did not go into that detail. Perhaps we probably should have included a Sunday into this, but I do believe that we have a separate provision that does exclude Sundays or holidays unless approved. But perhaps for consistency, we could have included that in here. But that is located elsewhere.
And that disbarment for the 10 years, would that be strictly for working on right away, a contractor? Or would that bar them from any?
Specific
Other-
to the public rights of way. So if they're working outside the public rights of way, then it's fair game.
Okay. Do you have any other questions?
And I would like to add from our last meeting, or the meeting before that, there was the discussion on restoration. On the cuff, I did provide some of the code language, but it is contained within our code that the contractor has to perform that right-of-way restoration, or we can not approve permits until that restoration is done, assuming they're done with the work. So that is in there, and I thought I'd clarify that.
And the restoration is to take it back to pre.
Free or better.
Okay.
Thank you.
Chairman Pro Tem, we are requesting a first and second reading on this evening.
Can I get a motion?
Move to pass that ordinance second reading by title.
Osborne,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Euler,
Yes.
Bentley.
Yes.
An ordinance amending provisions of Article 8, Chapter 20, right-of-way management of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Warrensburg. This is for adoption or rejection. Osborne,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Euler,
Yes.
Bentley.
Yes. All right, 8.5, first and second reading of an ordinance authorizing the city manager and city clerk to execute a memorandum of understanding with Pioneer Trails Regional Planning Commission. Presented by Enrico.
So good evening, Chairman Pro Tem and Council. So for your consideration for first and second reading is an ordinance that would authorize the city manager to execute a memorandum of understanding with the Pioneer Trails Regional Planning Commission. And this is in relation to the West Market Street project that we talked about at the last council meeting. Similar to the item to follow are just given the city the ability to authorize those monies to execute this. So in particular, the RPC will provide grant application services and just kind of make sure that all the Ts are crossed and the Is are dotted. So with us tonight is Norman, Executive Director with the RPC, in case you have any questions. But I also thought it would be good for you to be able to kind of meet the team as well. If you have any questions, happy to answer.
Questions? All right. Can I get a motion on ordinance?
Move to pass that ordinance second reading by title.
Osborne,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Euler,
Yes.
Bentley.
Yes.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager and city clerk to execute a memorandum of understanding with Pioneer Trails Regional Planning Commission for services in connection with the CDBG grant application. This is for adoption or rejection. Osborne,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Euler,
Yes.
Bentley.
Yes. 8.6, first and second reading of an ordinance authorizing the city manager and city clerk to execute a task order amendment with engineering surveys and services.
So very similar to the previous item. This is a reading, an ordinance on first and second reading to give the city manager the authority to execute an agreement with ESS to assist us with the engineering design and preliminary engineering report that would accompany the grant application. And I would like to say too, that I'm very excited to work with ESS. The branch manager is a former public works director. So he kind of offers a unique insight, and it's good to be able to bounce that stuff off of him. Anyway, I can stand for any questions.
No questions? Can I get a motion on the ordinance?
Move to pass that ordinance second reading by title.
Osborne,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Euler,
Yes.
Bentley.
Yes.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager and city clerk to execute a task order amendment under master services agreement with Engineering Surveys and Services LLC. This is for adoption or rejection. Osborne,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Euler,
Yes.
Bentley.
Yes. All right, and thank you for those presentations. Okay. All right, so Norman, did you have anything that you wanted to add this time?
Nothing in particular. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Appearances to the council not listed on the agenda. We have, is it Chris Yarnell?
No, I'm the gentleman from insurance. So
Okay, all right, perfect. Thank you. All right, do we have anybody else? All right. Miscellaneous matters from the mayor and or city council? Does anybody have anything you want to share? Or? And next we'll move on to the Director of Finance report.
Good evening, Chairman Pro Tem and Council. So your Director of Finance report is a recap of what has been recorded at that point in time for the month of July. It shows budgets being managed very well. Revenues are exceeding what they were projected for the year. I think we've talked a little bit about that at the first meeting, with sales tax revenue coming in higher than what we had anticipated. And thanks to the management staff and others for maintaining their expenditures line items within budget or below budget going forward. So that shows a nice increase in the revenues over expenditures. We also received the ARPA monies. So that final $2 million was received on Friday. And we are slated to get another $19,000, which is unallocated monies that the state had available. So that is our portion of those unallocated monies. And those are scheduled to be received tomorrow. So that money now is completely receipted. And so projects can be outlined, and reports will be due in April to the U.S. Treasury once again for any commitments that we have or any more expenditures that we have actually expended for those monies.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, city manager's report.
I do.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, no, you're not. I don't.
All right.
Good evening. I just want to thank Councilman Osborne and Program Director Danielle Foster for joining me at the state fair. The Warrensburg community was represented 3 of the 10 days of the state fair. We handed out a lot of great information about our community and had some really great feedback. So thank you so much for joining me and doing that. While at the fair on Friday, I received a notice that Terrain Magazine, which is it's kind of headquartered out of the St. Louis area, but they hit about 22 states with their publication. Warrensburg is going to be the featured community in their November, December issue. So very excited about that. That is a free editorial content. And so we're really excited to bring that together. So I'm working with them right now on pictures and content. And I'll keep you updated when that gets published. We will have a booth at the farmer's market this Saturday. It's called, the theme is In the Burg. And so we'll be providing a lot of the information that we had at the state fair to our residents. So when their friends and family visit, they can educate them on what we have going on.
Marcy, what was the name of the magazine?
Terrain.
Terrain.
Terrain
Okay.
magazine.
All right, thank you.
The council, just wanted to address and advise the work that we've been doing. Last week, we had investigators working with the sheriff's office, multiple other agencies, marshals and multiple agencies in reference to one individual, and they were able to take him into custody safely. So that was a good thing. With the SWAT team was out assisting them as well. One thing I wanted to bring to everyone's attention, we also responded to an officer taking shots fired, rounds towards the officer. We had officers rush in to assist him as well. No one was hurt on the law enforcement side, but wanted to just kind of bring to your attention that officers do every day. We go out to serve and protect everyone in this community. So just wanted to let you be aware of that. And we also have the radios, the en route company that's going to be installing radios. They're going to be on site starting next week and starting to get some of that equipment installed. So kind of let you know where we're at with some of that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
The last thing that I have, if no one else has anything, oh, sorry, can you go ahead? Go ahead.
So I did want to bring up that we had some vandalism at the cemetery last week. Several headstones were knocked over, 3 in total, 2 very large ones and then 1 smaller one. The 2 large ones have been repaired. The smaller one is going to take a little bit of time to fix, but we are pursuing ways in order to get that corrected. And finally, about the cemetery, we are looking at a possible location specific to children that have passed away, say like a stillborn or miscarriage or something like that. That way there's a proper burial for them. So we believe we have a location identified, but once we do, we will kind of share that with you all on like a future city manager's report. In the past, some citizens have inquired about that. So there have been some citizens requests for such things. And so anyway, happy to share that.
Thank you.
You'll recall that there were Hawthorne lots, so the Hawthorne lots around the cul-de-sac, as well as lot 4B, which is the parking lot in front of Marshall. Those lots were on the tax sale list. However, they were removed. The owner of the lots around the cul-de-sac, the owner paid those taxes, so those remain with the current property owner. Lot 4B, which is the parking lot in front of Marshall, the bank came in and paid the back taxes on that, and so that lot will be going for sale at foreclosure. I believe at the end of this week. So, just a quick update on those 2 things.
Thank you. Next one is move to closed session.
Relating to,
Oh, yeah, I didn't know if anybody else wanted. Good.
Vote to close part of this meeting pursuant to section 610.021 of the revised statutes of Missouri relating to 12 documents related to a negotiated contract.
Osborne,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Euler,
Yes.
Bentley.
Yes. All right, I'd like to thank everybody. We're adjourned.